I would like to introduce you in our next panel, Rodrigo Fonseca, that is General Manager for Strategic Affairs at Apex Brazil, North America. He was head of Economic and Commercial Affairs Office of the Consulate General of Brazil in Miami between 2017 and 2022. Following that position, he was assigned to open up the Consulate of Brazil in Orlando between 2002 until April 2023. With more than 25 years of experience in the field, graduated from the University of Brasilia with a degree in law in '89, and from the Rio Branco Institute, the Brazilian Diplomatic Academy, with a degree in diplomacy in '94. Throughout his diplomat career, he served in France and Guyana, among other worldwide missions. He has also worked in the private sector in telecom and infrastructure. Rodrigo, we are honored to have you here to talking about Brazil for us.
Thank you, Danila. Thank you, Ambassador, my dear friend Luis Claudio, Max, Celso, for this kind invitation, for this important initiative. Is this the, oops. Are you gonna control? No, please, yes. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about, it's better for you too, if you could, Antonio, to talk about Brazil, right? First, let me explain a little bit about APEX. APEX is a public-private agency aimed at promoting exports from Brazil into other markets, and also bring investments and encourage, joint ventures, companies from Brazil going international, and the headquarters of Apex in North America is in Miami. We have also a branch in San Francisco. I have here my colleague somewhere, Gustavo, who can also do a little pitch of the services that our agency offers to the public. It's also an incubator. We have a very open eye towards the southeast of the United States, and Atlanta is the hub of this interest, strategic interest of the Brazilian economy towards, getting connected with the mainland, right? With the hinterland of the United States. We know that Miami is a very important gateway for the Brazilian companies into the United States, but Georgia and the Southeast, Atlanta in particular, is the next chapter for the Brazilian companies aimed at going American, if I may say. So it's very important to be here, and I salute all of you for this presence, for this initiative. Talking about Brazil, I'm a very optimistic Brazilian. I'm a diplomat. I'm a keen enthusiast of our career, right, Ambassador? And one of the roles of the diplomat is to show the good side of our country, of our economy. So I didn't lose this habit, even though I'm let's say I'm lent to the Apex to perform these new duties, right? But in very brief words, my friends, Brazil is a strong powerhouse of Latin America, right? If we see Latin America from Rio Grande River all the way down to Ushuaia, deep down south of our continent, Brazil responds for 1/3 of everything, of GDP, of population, of growth. Even though we know that Mexico is a strong competitor in that regard, especially now that after the pandemic with the nearshoring thing, and you all know about that. But Brazil still is undoubtedly the powerhouse of our continent. Given that into perspective, the last year was the very first year after the height of the pandemic, right? Records in our foreign trade. We have this trade flow with the world of $606 billion, totaling exports $334 billion exports, with a trade balance of $71 billion, only 22. I can share with you that the outlook for this year, 2023, indicates a very good possibility of reaching 93 billion in trade balance surplus. The resumption of investments is a reality, is common sense now. 86 billion. We're the 11th largest recipient of foreign direct investment, the largest in Latin America, and another good feature of our strength, if I may say, in terms of being the recipient of these investments, that we have investments from all over the world, especially the EU, the US, and China. Please, Antonio. And why Brazil shows such a resiliency in terms of economic recovery after the pandemic phenomenon? We have what it takes to feel strong in this post-pandemic world. We have energy, we have clean energy, we have a very strong, very robust agribusiness sector, and we do have as well digital and technological innovations and big cutting-edge companies ready to integrate with American companies as well. In the energy sector, we have solar, wind, hydropower, ethanol fuel. As you know, the Brazilian fuel mix is more than almost 80% made up of renewable, Antonio, sources, which gives us a good position in terms of being in compliance with the demands, with the requirements of this world that is so in need of a more sustainable economy, sustainable way of living, and so on. The agribusiness is the how can I say, the flagship of our economy, right? We're very strong in beef and pork, soya beans. Cotton, we are number 2 after the US, and trying to outpace the American cotton industry. Fruit, we hope. Poultry, that's right, yeah, poultry. Natural honey, fish and seafood, spices, wine, peanuts, cachaça, we forgot to mention. Cachaça is the spirit that Brazil is proud of producing. And in the digital innovations, we are pretty much well positioned in the financial services, food and delivery services, and real estate. Please, next. The energy sector. Brazil's electricity matrix is one of the cleanest in the world. Brazil is committed to continue its support for renewable energy projects. Investments are expected in wind, solar, and hydropower capacity. It's self-explanatory. It's we have everything that it takes: sun, water, right, and a mindset that enshrines this concern with the environment. We are pretty much prepared to defend ourselves, right, Ambassador, from attacks, I'd say, a media attack, fake news, complaining about the handling of the Amazon and matters related to deforestation, that kind of thing. It's a huge continental-sized country. It's not easy to curb all the matters, the problems that may affect remote areas in the Amazon, but be sure that this government, headed by President Lula, the Vice President Alckmin, our president of the agency, Jorge Viana, of Apex, is from Acre. Acre State Acre is I would say it's a tropical Alaska. It's far north, right? And nobody knows very well. It's a sanctuary in terms of environment, and this shows the nomination of our boss, Jorge Viana, as an ex-governor of Acre, to become the president of Apex is no coincidence. It shows the importance that the current government gives to the environment and ESG practices and so on. Next, please. Okay, yeah, BlackRock has just announced its first investment in Latin America. It signed an accord to acquire participation in Brasol, a Brazilian renewable energy company focused in solar energy. Now you see in that graphic, the transition to a low-carbon economy may require investment 125 trillion, of which 32 trillion will be allocated by 2030. This large volume will create investment opportunities for our clients, and we believe Brazil's potential to be an important investment destination. Again, Brazil is a natural destination of that kind of investment. Be ready to get in touch with our opportunities. Our role at Apex, together with the consulate, with the chamber, and with other stakeholders, is to, disclose of these opportunities, and I'm sure that you won't regret to try to find out how promising our economy in that field, in that moment of the industrial and the activity of mankind in transition to a greener economy. Brazil is well positioned. Please. Brazil's fintech dominance in Latin America. How many of you know that Nubank is the largest? It's a fintech that was a startup till 10 years ago. All of a sudden, it became the fourth largest banking institution in Brazil, a country that is renowned for the strengths of its banking institutions. And so that shows the strength, that also the capacity of Brazilian innovation ecosystem to yield new companies, absolutely globalized, in line with the most modern companies in the capital market industry, right? Quinto Andar is also a most valuable housing platform in Latin America. Stone, leading payment disruptor and #1 retail software provider. It's a Brazilian fintech that launched its IPO in the New York Stock Exchange, attracting the attention of giants such as Berkshire Hathaway. So this, in a very, let's say, brief words, my intention is to show that Brazil is much more than agribusiness, agri-tech, farming, food. That's of course that's the to make a joke. Yeah, the bread and butter of the world, but Brazil is much more than that. It's a much sophisticated, with a very diversified industrial park and so on. Please, Antonio. The food industry sector shows the many world-class brands, right? Oakberry, it's a very popular, right, brand here in the United States nowadays. Let alone, we forgot to put here Natura. How many of you know about Natura, right? They're all companies that came with this stamp of ESG from scratch, right, and became worldwide brands, family brands. We also, we could also add here for a more day-to-day familiar use, the Balduco, right? Balduco brand, which now is a staple in America. Unbelievable. It wasn't. I think the American consumer wasn't even familiar with the Panettone, right? Panettone product, and now it's a common thing, and the wafer and everything, right? And by the way, Balduco has just announced that they are opening a new plant. We're creating 600 jobs in the Tampa Bay area in Florida. iFood, which is how can I describe iFood? Is like Uber Eats, right, in Brazil. DoorDash, as I was gonna remember. And it's a huge success. It's a very solid tech company, and so on. Please. In terms of the Brazilian investment in the United States, this is one very promising brand, right? Wild Fork. As you know, Wild Fork is the American branding for JBS, for Friboi, right? Friboi, and it's expanding real fast. It's today the JBS, the mother shareholder, right, of a Wild Fork, holds also brands, very important brands such as Swift or Wilson. Now I'm Swift, right? Among all, yeah, and they became, and it's a point of pride for Brazilian capitalism and economy. It's the main source of protein in the world. The bacon the British consume every day is 80% is coming from one of GBS producing companies. The eggs please.
Just to add up, GBS has in Georgia a make that almost everyone would think it's very American made. This Pilgrim fries, actually.
Of course, yeah.
Brazilian capital.
Yeah.
Brazil has a lot of investment in Georgia, and Georgia has a lot of investment in Brazil. We have a very, very solid relationship with high-level investment in both sides. Here in Georgia, Brazil has Embraer, WEG, GPS, that's it. and also Georgia also has a big bet on Brazil. They keep, the government of Georgia keep an office in São Paulo for more than 20 years now, 25 years. 22, 25 years. No, just to point out that the relationship between Brazil and the Southeast, especially Georgia, is an old one. It's very well established, and it goes both sides in very high level. That's not a relationship between a rich country investing in a poor country, whatever. It's a very dynamic and a very, very promising relationship. It's going to be growing fast and fast. And whoever wants to invest in Brazil from Georgia can even have the help of the Georgia government office in São Paulo. So it's an invitation to keep this relationship going on. So, sorry.
Excellent. That's very important to mention. Let alone I think I have. I can share with you later. I don't know if I sent to you. I have this list, Ambassador, of companies that are intertwined, Brazilian and Georgian companies that already have operations together. Please, next. General data. Well, that's, I think, there's nothing much to add besides the fact that the U.S. is the second largest commercial partner of Brazil. However, it still remains as the first source of FDI in Brazil, with a stock of over $200 billion in investments in our economy. It's a partner that is it's a partner that's I mean, needless to say, that is strategic in all senses. It still is and will remain for centuries the first or the main creator of value and of establishing the value and the prices and the rates of things around the world. You see what I mean? It's I mean, the pork belly that we consume or that we export, the price is set here in the United States. Have you ever realized that? The pork, the iron, everything. We may have other partners around the world. China is another superpower, but the prices are mainly defined here in the American States. That's why it's so important to be here in America in order to be part of the global value chain of value, right? And please, next one. Opportunities. The USA presents great opportunity. I don't think I need to do any more talking about the opportunity. I mean, we all know the potential of the Brazilian, of the American market for the Brazilian companies. In general, it's important to mention that the general system of preference, GSP, a tariff benefit given by the U.S., expires in 2020. If renewed products from Brazil will benefit, that's something, Ambassador, that we should fight for, right? To relaunch this SGP together with other stakeholders in this process, CNI, and even Apex and Ministry of Agriculture, because this will certainly bring more benefits and more businesses both ways between Brazil and the United States. The challenge: Brazil remains the main destination for Brazil. The United States remains the second main destination for Brazilian export. The share that Brazil has, however, is still considered small, 1.1%. It's nothing. So there's a whole lot of room to grow. Efforts are needed. That's why we are here, right? To promote Brazilian products, Brazilian services as well, with greater added value in the economy. Minimal growth for the United States economy expected in 2023, with the potential for a possible recession in the second half of the year, which should have an impact on the demand for imported products from the country. Around 1/3 of U.S. imports, that's another challenge, originate from partners with trade agreements, particularly Mexico and Canada. In regulatory matters, Brazilian exporters must be aware of ongoing bills prohibiting the import of products linked to deforestation and carbon tax at the border. Recent U.S. trade defense measures could affect Brazilian products such as honey, lemon juice, and others. Iron, steel, aluminum products continue to be the most affected by these measures. So those are the challenges that face right now. Please. 10 main groups exported of products exported by Brazil. I can share this slide with you afterwards. Cellulose, wood pulp, work and sleepers, fruit, vegetables. So it's a very diversified set of products, right? It's not only a few commodities. So that's why it's even greater the importance of the American import scenario for Brazil. Havaiana, yeah, you see? Cellulose, wood pulp, right? Which goes beyond the cellulose itself. I don't know if you are aware of the fact you all have heard of the SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel. They're developing, Brazilian companies, developing this sustainable fuel based on the raw material of wood pulp, of pine tree. Como é que é? I forgot the name of the tree in Portuguese too. Pine tree, eucalyptus, right? So it's amazing. Let alone the fact that sugarcane is also part of this SAF research. And I heard that in less than 5 years, there should be some tests with actual aircraft on that SAF produced in Brazil in a very sustainable fashion, right? Please, next. Brazil's main export competitors, like we said. How is that again? Oh, Canada, yeah. Like Mexico, China, Canada, Russia, yeah. So we have tough competition in right now, right? Yeah. Despite having more than 50% of its value concentrated in 10 main products, Brazil's export basket to the U.S. is diversified, especially when compared to trade partners. Brazilian exports to the U.S. have grown by almost 77% per year since 2018. One of the relevant factors of this evolution is the rise in commodity prices at the global level. Of course, the unfortunate outbreak of the war in Ukraine helped our, exports in that matter, right? Even though it's the second main destination for its exports, Brazil has only a 1.1% share of the U.S. market. We have to work hard on that. In short, that's it. Next one, please. 10 main groups imported by Brazil. So you also see that the American exports are pretty diversified as well, with many manufacturers, value-added exports, right? Goods. Lots of fertilizers. That's also because, in a way, the war led to this new growth in exports by the United States. Next one, because I want to give a word. Yeah. Brazil's import basket originated in the US has a large share of oil and gas, both in its refined and in crude oil, with more than a third of the value in the flow. All the main groups of products imported by Brazil from the US showed growth between 18 and 22. Highlights include natural gas, crude, petroleum, fertilizer. Brazil is a fertilizer-hungry import economy to sustain our agro business, right? The U.S. is the second main supplier for Brazil with 18.8% of the market, behind only China. In the three main groups of products supplied to Brazil from the USA, it is noted that this country leads by a large margin compared to its competitor, exceeding 50% share in each case. Next one. International trade governance instruments, that devotion to multilateral, to the respect for the rule of law, for democracy, is also important for this intertwining of our economies. It's important to remember that the current U.S. government resumed the country's participation in the Paris Agreement, which for us is of utmost importance, reverses the previous administration's decision. Recent initiatives highlight an approach in favor of the environmental agenda through international trade, examples of which are the so-called green subsidies, including the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, and bills to prohibit imports linked to deforestation to create a carbon adjustment mechanism at the border similar to the European one. Of the 8 fundamental ILO conventions, the U.S. participated in only 2, against forced labor and child labor. The Biden administration has been partnering with other countries to eradicate forced labor from global trade. A relevant example was the recent entry in force of the Forced Labor Against Injuries Prevention Act. In a word, we share with the United States many instruments and many tools of good governance in the global community, which also facilitates the interchange and the flow of people, of trade, of goods, of ideas, of soft power, and things like that. Commercial opportunities, my friend, there are plenty in Brazil, right? Like we've been talking about here. You can see there. It's important to mention, last but not the least, that Brazil has just, President Lula himself launched the PAC, right? I don't know how to say, Growth Acceleration Program, which is a playground for investment in infrastructure, in terms of ports, of mobility, airports, roads, railroads, because the tendency is that Brazil keeps growing more and more food and raising more protein, cattle, and producing more minerals and everything. But we need to have the infrastructure to make way for these goods that are inevitably necessary for the world forever, right? To find their way out into the markets, right? Into international markets. So it's a real opportunity for those investing in facilities like that. Apex Brazil has those projects, sectorial projects focused in the US, for those who are interested in talking in more depth about that afterwards. Food and drink, all those acronyms with the name is the association, the corresponding association for those industries. Food, drink, agribusiness, housing and construction, creative economy, machinery, equipment, fashion, multi-sector, others, venture capital, health, information, communication tech. So there's we deal with these associations, with these industry, in a very frequent fashion, so we can do the matchmaking for those interested in getting in touch with them. Please. The stock of U.S. FDI in Brazil grew by $67 billion in 21, closing the series with more than $266 billion, which represents an increase of 49% compared to the 2020. In terms of participation, the US reached 23% of the total FDI stock in Brazil. I think we mentioned that before. In second place, we have Netherlands in second place with 13, and then Spain. From the perspective of projects announced in 22, highlights include Cloudflare's investments in the opening of a data center worth almost $800 million, Canpack's project in the expansion of the aluminum packaging factory, the Hydro Rain renewable energy, among others. In mergers and acquisitions, Align Data Centers purchases Odata Brazil for $1.8 billion in 22, and Darling Ingredients acquired food sector Geonex of $1 billion in 22. So you see, things are moving. Maybe sometimes we don't realize how connected. We are talking about connection right here. So the wave is there to be surfed, right? So let's move on, please. From the perspective of Brazilian projects announced in the US, the Portobello project in the home and construction sector, the Omega project, the wind energy sector, and others. Emerges in M&As, move from the oil and gas sector, acquire PetroChoice, so a Brazilian company, right? Lubrication solutions for almost $470 million in 22. Alpargatas, like you mentioned, purchased from 50% in royalties in the clothing sector for an estimated value of $270 million in 22. Just to finalize, as you know, it's the last one, that one, right? As you may know, my friends, we're making the government is making an effort to update our tax system, right, Ambassador? The so-called reforma tributária. So I'd like to give you just a brief insight on how this discussion, which is very important to attract capital in Brazil. We are discussing tax reform aimed at facilitating domestic and international investment. The first phase of the reform, recently approved in the lower house of the project of Congress, seeks to streamline the levying of consumption taxes in Brazil, fostering a more competitive market. The bill, which amends section of the Brazilian Constitution, now require approval in a double vote in the Senate before entering into force. The main update from this bill concerns the conversion of 5 taxes into 2 value-added taxes, one federal and the other to be jointly levied by states and municipalities. A unified set of rules, in short, and interpretations aim at mitigating regulatory burden, tax competition between states, and sectorial imbalances. In short, that's what I had to say. Feel free to raise discussions, to ask questions. It's my pleasure. Please.
Rodrigo, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I'm representing here today a company called IED, Net You're probably familiar with that. 7 years ago, they attended a presentation in Northeast, much like this. So 2 years later, they made a decision to put a facility, and it's plural, in Brazil. IDT is an international telecom operations. The agreement there led to, and our investments there led to a no-charge telecom between here and the United States, really facilitating commerce between the countries. But more important today, last year the production made in Brazil led our Central and South American production, which is to say that they have now the infrastructure, both from the state-owned and private engineers that go there to rebuild and to make and to have rest of us follow technology that had proven successful here and enriching both of our countries. So with that in regards, we're talking about investment in people, not from that. So one of the reasons why Atlanta is so successful here is that we figured out how to keep our Georgia Tech graduates, okay, and became a very successful one, because guess what? Now your millennials are from all over the United States are coming here to work. Argentina followed that rule. I don't know if they heard of Atlanta, they did that or not, but there is a payment or through either credit and or direct payment through their economic development to move down there, to move our technologies and hire people down there. Are there such programs in place and or in talks right this time from Brazil?
I assume that this the Brazilian connection in terms of telecom with the world is it's always an issue to be addressed. I'm really not familiar with this particular challenge, but I'll do my best to find out with Anatel, which is the regulatory body for telecommunications in Brazil, to find out the actual stage of. It's a important point that you raise, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Just to, well, it has to be said that Brazil is also a country that invests a lot in science and technology. The University of São Paulo is the biggest university in Latin America, and well positioned in any ranks, international ranks about that. So Brazil produces a lot of brains in any area of Brazil. Brazil is a very, for instance, in some cases, in terms of agribusiness, Brazil is a huge consumer of technology in agribusiness. But Brazil is much more a producer of technology in agribusiness. So in technology too, in IT, Brazil also has some excellence centers and produce a lot of people that work on that. And one of the proofs of that is the position that Brazil holds in terms of fintech. So Brazil is very innovative in fintech. The Brazilian companies, small companies, medium companies, and all the banking sector of Brazil is very, very advanced, including in terms of comparing with any other country, including with the U.S. So, of course, there's points that we need to improve our know-how, but we also produce a lot of technology, and especially in this IT, we are very strong on that. And we have a tremendous, like the U.S., we have a tremendous academic basis, because I mentioned USP, University of São Paulo, but we have a very, very big net of federal universities, state universities like the US, and even private universities that produce good technology and good technicians and good operators of this technology. So that's part of the game. And that's also part of the game that the internationalization of the Brazilian economy. Brazil used to be a very closed economy, and from the last decades is opening up. And in this process of opening up, not only is receiving more international companies to work in Brazil, but Brazilian companies are getting international. And this movement that go both ways, of course, is made on brains, on technology, on knowledge. And we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to get from other countries, but we also have a very good basis to work on from. Thank you.